The moment I saw the blood on the kitchen floor, I knew I should have never taken this job. My name is James, and I am 23 years old. I moved to Brookfield 6 months ago, desperate for work and a fresh start after dropping out of graduate school. The town sits in a forgotten corner of the country, surrounded by dense forests and abandoned farmland that seems to stretch into nowhere. Population 2,200. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone except they do not talk about certain things. Certain families, certain houses on the edge of town where the streetlights flicker and die. I found the job posting on a bulletin board at the local diner. Handwritten on yellowed paper, barely legible. Babysitter needed. Good pay, night shifts. Experience preferred but not required. Ask for Robert at 555-0147. The pay was listed at the bottom. $300 per night, $300 for 8 hours of work. In a town where the average job paid $10 an hour, this was impossible to ignore. I had rent due, student loans breathing down my neck, and a car that made concerning noises every time I turned the ignition. My studio apartment was barely furnished with secondhand furniture I had bought from a yard sale. The heater did not work properly, and I spent most nights wrapped in blankets watching my breath form clouds in the cold air. I needed this money more than I wanted to admit. I called the number before I could talk myself out of it. My hands were shaking as I dialed, partly from the cold, partly from desperation. The phone rang twice before someone picked up. Robert answered on the first ring. His voice was deep, measured, careful. "You are calling about the position?" "Yes, sir." "The babysitting job. Is it still available?" "It is." "Can you start tonight?" I hesitated. Something about the immediate offer felt off. But my bank account had $47 in it. I had been eating ramen noodles for 2 weeks straight. My car insurance was due in 5 days, and I did not have the money to pay it. "Tonight?" "Sure. Yes. I can start tonight." "Good. Come to 1847 Blackwood Trail at 8 p.m. Do not be late. I will leave instructions for you. It is important that you follow them exactly. No deviations. Do you understand?" "I understand. But can I ask what I will be doing exactly?" "How old is the child?" "His name is Tyler. He is 8 years old. You will watch him from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. That is all you need to know for now. The rest will be explained in the instructions. Can you tell me a bit about Tyler? Does he have any special needs or—" The line went dead before I could finish my question. I stared at my phone, confused and slightly unnerved. But $300 was $300. I spent the next hour trying to make myself look presentable, changing into my least wrinkled shirt and the only pair of jeans without holes in them. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. Thin face, dark circles under my eyes from too many sleepless nights worrying about money, hair that needed cutting. I looked like what I was, a broke graduate school dropout trying to survive. I should have recognized the warning signs. The evasiveness, the urgency, the money that was far too good for what seemed like a simple job. But I was young and broke and stupid, and I told myself it was probably just a wealthy family with an eccentric kid who had trouble sleeping. Before leaving, I tried to research the address online. Blackwood Trail was not on Google Maps. I tried Facebook looking for Robert's profile, but there were too many Roberts in the area, and none of them seemed right. I searched local news archives for anything about 1847 Blackwood Trail and found nothing. It was as if the address did not officially exist. I spent the afternoon trying to learn more about the job. When I asked about it at the gas station while filling up my car, using the last $20 in my wallet, the attendant, an older woman named Dorothy with gray hair and sharp eyes, went pale. "You are not going out there, are you?" "I have a job, babysitting." She grabbed my wrist across the counter, her grip surprisingly strong for someone her age. Her fingers were cold and I could feel her trembling. "Listen to me very carefully. Whatever they are paying you, it is not enough. That house has been trouble for 50 years. My grandmother told me stories about that place, about the things that happen there. People who go in do not always come out the same." I gently pulled my hand away, uncomfortable with her intensity. "What do you mean? What kind of things?" "Strange things. Unexplained things. 15 years ago, a young woman took that same job. She went in one night and came out 8 hours later with white hair. Completely white, even though she was only 25 years old. She never spoke about what happened. She moved away within a week. Then there was the man before her. He lasted 3 nights before he quit. Told everyone in town he would rather starve than go back to that house. When people asked why, he just said there were rules. Rules that did not make sense. Rules that should not exist. A chill ran down my spine. What kind of rules? He would not say. But he told my cousin that the house was wrong. That something lived there that should not exist. That the family was not really a family at all, but caretakers of something old and hungry. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. There have been 7 babysitters in the last 5 years. None of them lasted more than a month. Most quit after one night. Whatever is in that house, James, it is not worth any amount of money. How do you know my name? Small town. Word travels fast. The moment you called that number, people knew. We have been watching you all day, hoping you would change your mind. She reached under the counter and pulled out a small silver cross on a chain. Take this. If you are determined to go, at least take this with you. I looked at the cross, feeling foolish. I had never been religious. I did not believe in ghosts or demons or anything supernatural. But something in Dorothy's eyes made me take it anyway. Thank you. Do not thank me yet, son. And if you see anything strange, you leave. You hear me? You leave immediately. Do not try to be brave. Do not try to understand. Just leave. I nodded, though I had no intention of abandoning a $300 job over small-town superstitions. I pocketed the cross and asked her for directions. She studied my face for a long moment, then sighed heavily. Take Route 9 north for 8 miles. You will see a dirt road with a broken mailbox that says Blackwood. Follow it for 2 miles. You cannot miss the house. It is the only one out there. Thank you. Do not thank me yet, son. The drive out to Blackwood Trail took 30 minutes. The sun was setting as I turned onto the dirt road, casting long shadows through the pine trees that pressed in on both sides. The road was poorly maintained, full of potholes that made my car groan in protest. My headlights cut through the growing darkness, illuminating nothing but trees and more trees. No other houses, no other driveways, no signs of civilization, just forest closing in around me, making the dirt road feel like a tunnel through a dark, living mass. My radio had stopped working about 2 miles back, just static no matter what station I tried. My phone showed no signal. I was completely cut off from the outside world. The house appeared suddenly as if the forest had been hiding it until the last possible moment. It was a large Victorian structure, 3 stories tall, painted a faded gray that might have once been white. The paint was peeling in long strips, revealing dark wood underneath. The windows were dark except for a single light on the ground floor. A wraparound porch sagged slightly on one side, and I could see missing boards in several places. The yard was overgrown with weeds that reached almost to my knees. A rusted swing set stood motionless in the gathering dusk, the swings hanging at odd angles as if someone had deliberately twisted the chains. I parked in the gravel driveway and checked my phone. 7:52 p.m. I was early, still no signal. As I sat in my car, I noticed other details. The windows on the 3rd floor were boarded up. Every single one of them. Some of the boards looked new, as if they had been replaced recently. The front door was painted bright red, a stark contrast to the gray walls. It looked wrong, like a wound in the side of the house. I took a deep breath and got out of the car. The air was cold, much colder than it should have been for this time of year. My breath formed visible clouds. The silence was oppressive. No birds, no insects, no wind. Just complete absolute silence. As I approached the front door, it opened before I could knock. Robert stood in the doorway, backlit by the interior light. He was tall, maybe 6'3", with dark hair graying at the temples. He wore a black suit that looked expensive but outdated, like something from the 1980s. His face was angular, his eyes deep-set and shadowed. He had the look of someone who had not slept well in a very long time. James, you are punctual. Good. He stepped aside to let me in. Come in. We do not have much time. The interior of the house was just as unsettling as the exterior. The foyer was dominated by a grand staircase with a dark wood banister. Old portraits lined the walls, stern-faced people in antiquated clothing who seemed to watch as I entered. The portraits were all from different eras. Some looked like they were from the 1800s, others from the early 1900s. But they all had the same expression, a mixture of fear and resignation, as if they knew something terrible that the viewer did not. The air smelled of old books and something else, something faintly metallic that I could not identify. It reminded me of the smell of rust or old blood. Where is Tyler? I asked, my voice sounding too loud in the quiet house. Upstairs, asleep. He goes to bed at 7:30 p.m. every night without fail. Robert walked to a small table by the door and picked up a piece of paper covered in handwriting. His hands were shaking slightly. These are the rules. You must follow them exactly. I cannot stress this enough. Do you understand? Yes, but can you explain what? There is no time for questions. My wife and I must leave now. We will return at 4 a.m. Read the rules. Follow them. Do not deviate. Not even once. Not even slightly. He pressed the paper into my hands and I felt how cold his fingers were. If you deviate from the rules, even with good intentions, there will be consequences. Do you understand me? What kind of consequences? The kind that change you permanently. The kind you cannot undo. He called up the stairs, his voice sharp. Sarah, we need to go. A woman appeared at the top of the staircase. She was thin, almost gaunt, with blonde hair pulled back in a tight bun. She wore a long, dark coat that seemed too heavy for the weather, and carried a small suitcase. Her eyes were red, as if she had been crying recently, or perhaps as if she had been crying for a very long time. Is he asleep? Robert asked. She nodded but said nothing. She descended the stairs slowly, gripping the banister tightly as if she might fall without it. Each step seemed to take enormous effort. As she passed me, she stopped and looked directly into my eyes. Her gaze was intense, desperate. Please, she whispered. Please just follow the rules. Do not try to be clever. Do not try to understand. Do not try to help him no matter what he says. Just follow the rules exactly as they are written. Why? What is wrong with Tyler? Her eyes filled with tears. Everything, she whispered. Everything is wrong. But the rules keep him safe. They keep everyone safe. Promise me you will follow them. I promise. Before I could say anything else, Robert took her arm firmly and guided her toward the door. We are leaving now. Remember, 4 a.m., not a minute earlier. If you must leave before then, leave the front door unlocked. But if you do that, do not come back, ever. Do you understand? I understand, but the door closed before I could finish. I heard their footsteps on the porch, then the sound of a car starting. Gravel crunched under tires, then silence. I stood alone in the foyer, holding the piece of paper, my heart beating faster than it should have been. The house felt different now that I was alone in it. The shadows seemed darker, the silence seemed heavier, and I had the distinct feeling that I was being watched by something I could not see. I took several deep breaths, trying to calm myself. This was just a job. Just 8 hours. I had spent worse nights working at the fast food place back home. I could do this. The rules were written in neat, precise handwriting. I moved to the living room, a space filled with old furniture covered in plastic and more portraits on the walls, and sat down under a lamp to read. The light flickered once as I settled into the chair, then steadied. Rule 1. Tyler will remain in his bedroom on the 2nd floor. The door will be locked from the outside. Do not unlock it. Do not open it. Do not go inside for any reason, even if he begs, even if he screams, even if he claims he is hurt or sick. The door must remain locked until we return. Rule 2. Tyler will wake up at 9 p.m. He will knock on his door 3 times. You must respond by knocking back twice. This lets him know you are here. This is important. If you do not knock back, other things will knock instead. Rule 3. At 9:15 p.m. you will prepare Tyler his snack. In the kitchen, you will find a blue plate in the cabinet above the sink. Place exactly 3 chocolate chip cookies and 1 glass of milk on the plate. The milk must be cold. Leave the plate outside his bedroom door. Knock twice and return downstairs immediately. Do not wait to see if he takes it. Do not watch. Just leave. Rule 4. At 10 p.m. you will hear sounds from the basement. Ignore them. Do not investigate. Do not go to the basement door. Do not try to understand what you are hearing. Sit in the living room and wait for them to stop. They will stop by 10:30 p.m. If they do not stop by 10:30 p.m., leave the house immediately. Rule 5. At 11 p.m., check all the doors and windows on the 1st floor. Make sure they are locked. If you find any door or window unlocked, lock it immediately and say out loud, "This house is sealed." Do not ask why. Do not skip this. It is vital. Rule 6. Tyler will knock on his door again at midnight. You must knock back twice. If he knocks more than 3 times, do not respond. Go to the living room and stay there until the knocking stops. Do not count how many times he knocks. Do not listen to what he might say between knocks. Rule 7. Between midnight and 2 a.m., you may hear footsteps on the third floor. Ignore them. The third floor is off limits. Do not go upstairs past the second floor for any reason. Do not investigate the sounds. Do not try to see who is making them. Pretend they do not exist. Rule 8. At 2 a.m., prepare Tyler his second snack. This time, use a red plate, same cabinet. Place exactly 2 graham crackers and 1 glass of water on the plate. Leave it outside his door, knock twice, and return downstairs immediately. Again, do not wait. Do not watch. Rule 9. If the lights go out at any time, do not panic. Go to the living room and sit in the armchair by the window. Close your eyes and count to 100. Do not open your eyes before you finish counting, no matter what you hear, feel, or smell. The lights will come back on. If you open your eyes early, we cannot help you. Rule 10. If Tyler asks you to open the door, do not do it. If he says he is scared, tell him through the door, you are safe. Your parents will be home soon. Do not say anything else. Do not have a conversation with him. Do not let him convince you. Rule 11. If you see someone in the house who is not Tyler, do not acknowledge them. Do not speak to them. Do not look directly at them for more than a moment. Pretend they are not there. They will leave on their own if you ignore them. If you acknowledge them, they will not leave. Rule 12. At 3:30 a.m., Tyler will go back to sleep. You will know because the house will become very quiet. Do not disturb this quiet. Do not make loud noises. Do not go upstairs. Sit in the living room until Robert and Sarah return at 4 a.m. Final warning. These rules exist for your safety and Tyler's safety. Breaking them will have consequences that extend beyond this night. Once you stay past 8:30 p.m., you must remain until 4 a.m. If you leave early, lock the front door behind you and never return to Brookfield. Do not tell anyone what you saw or heard. Some knowledge is dangerous. I read through the list 3 times, my hands shaking slightly. This was insane. What kind of parents lock their child in a room and hire a babysitter to follow a list of bizarre instructions? What were the sounds in the basement? Who might I see in the house? What did they mean by other things will knock instead? I looked at my phone. 8:14 p.m. No signal, of course, I should leave. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to walk out the front door, get in my car, and never look back. But $300. That was almost a week's rent. That was groceries for a month. That was the difference between making it and drowning. I had $27 to my name until my next unemployment check, which was not due for another week. If I left now, I would not eat tomorrow. I would not make rent. I would have to call my parents and admit that I had failed at everything. I could not do that. I would not do that. I told myself it was probably just paranoid parents with an unusual kid. Maybe Tyler had severe behavioral issues. Maybe he was violent and needed to be contained. Maybe the house had mice or settling noises that freaked people out. Small-town folk were superstitious. This would be fine. I would follow the rules, collect my money, and never come back. I folded the rules and put them in my pocket, then spent the next 45 minutes exploring the first floor. The house was a maze of rooms, each one more unsettling than the last. The formal dining room had a table that could seat 12, set with fine china that was covered in dust. The plates had a pattern of black roses. In the center of the table was a dead flower arrangement, roses that had dried to the point of being unrecognizable, their petals brown and brittle. The library was filled with old books, their spines cracked and faded. I pulled one out at random and opened it. The text was in a language I did not recognize. Not Spanish, not French, not German. The letters looked wrong, twisted, as if they had been written by someone who did not quite understand how human language worked. I shoved the book back onto the shelf, suddenly not wanting to touch it anymore. The kitchen was surprisingly modern compared to the rest of the house. Stainless steel appliances, granite countertops. But there were odd details. A large calendar on the wall marked only with red X's through certain dates. Today's date had 3 X's and a note that said J next to it. Me. They had marked my arrival on the calendar. I looked at previous months and saw other initials. MKST, other babysitters, I assumed. Most of them had only 1 or 2 dates marked. A few had more. In the cabinet above the sink, exactly as described, were the blue plate and the red plate, distinct among the white dishes. I checked the refrigerator and found milk, a package of chocolate chip cookies, and a box of graham crackers. Everything I needed for Tyler's snacks. But there was nothing else in the fridge. No other food. No leftovers. Nothing to suggest that a family actually lived here and ate meals. There was a small bathroom near the back of the house. I splashed water on my face, trying to calm my nerves. When I looked up at the mirror, I jumped. For just a second, I thought I saw someone standing behind me, but when I spun around, the bathroom was empty. My reflection stared back at me, pale and frightened. I left the bathroom quickly, my heart racing. At 8:58 p.m., I positioned myself at the bottom of the staircase, staring up at the dark second floor. I could not see much, just the first few steps illuminated by the light from the foyer, then darkness beyond. My phone showed 8:59 p.m. I pulled out the rules and read them again, making sure I understood. Rule 2. Tyler will wake at 9 p.m. and knock 3 times. I must knock back twice. The seconds ticked by with agonizing slowness. 8:59 p.m. became 9 p.m., 3 knocks. Clear, deliberate, spaced exactly 1 second apart. Knock, knock, knock. My heart hammered in my chest. I climbed the stairs slowly, the old wood creaking under my feet. Each step seemed to echo through the entire house. The second-floor hallway was dark except for a nightlight plugged into an outlet near the floor, casting weak, yellowish light that barely pushed back the shadows. 4 doors, all closed. One of them, the second on the left, had a padlock on the outside. The padlock was large, industrial-looking, the kind you would use on a storage unit or a shed. Not the kind of thing you would normally use on a child's bedroom door. I approached it slowly and knocked twice on the wood. The sound echoed in the hallway. There was a moment of silence. Then a small voice said from inside, "Hello? Is someone there?" Tyler. He sounded like a normal 8-year-old boy, not scared, just acknowledging my presence with the curiosity of a child. I remembered Rule 10. Do not have conversations. Do not let him convince you. I did not respond. I just turned and walked back downstairs, my footsteps echoing in the silence. Behind me, I heard Tyler's voice again, quieter now. Please do not leave me alone, I kept walking. Rule 10. Do not respond unless he says he is scared, and even then only say the specific phrase. At 9:15 p.m., I prepared the snack exactly as instructed. Blue plate. 3 chocolate chip cookies arranged in a triangle, 1 glass of cold milk. My hands were shaking slightly as I carried the plate upstairs. The house felt wrong. Everything about it felt wrong. But I pushed the feeling aside and focused on following the rules. I set the plate on the floor outside the locked door, knocked twice, and immediately returned to the first floor. I listened from the living room, my ear tilted toward the stairs. After a moment, I heard the sound of the door opening, just a crack, just enough for small hands to reach out and pull the plate inside. Then the door closed again. The lock clicked. So far, everything was following the rules. I tried to distract myself with my phone, but there was still no signal. I found the book I had started reading in the library and brought it to the living room, settling into the plastic-covered armchair. The book was a mystery novel from the 1960s, yellowed pages that smelled of mildew. I tried to focus on the story, but my eyes kept drifting to the clock on the wall, watching the minutes crawl toward 10 p.m. At 9:47 p.m., I heard a creak from upstairs. Just one, then silence. At 9:53 p.m., another creak, different location, as if someone was walking slowly across the second floor. I gripped the book tighter and told myself it was just the house settling. Old houses made noises. That was normal. At 9:58 p.m., the temperature dropped. Suddenly, dramatically. My breath formed visible clouds. I looked at the thermostat on the wall. It read 45 degrees, though it had been 68 just minutes before. When the clock struck 10 p.m., I heard it, a sound from below. From the basement. It started as a low scraping, like something heavy being dragged across a concrete floor, metal on stone creating a sound that set my teeth on edge. Then voices, multiple voices overlapping, speaking in words I could not quite make out. They sounded angry, desperate. The scraping grew louder, accompanied by a rhythmic banging like someone pounding on a door with their fists. Rule 4. Ignore them. Do not investigate. Do not go to the basement door. I sat rigid in the living room armchair, the book forgotten in my lap, listening to the sounds beneath me. The voices grew clearer, though still incomprehensible. They were not speaking English. Or if they were, the words were so distorted by rage or pain that they were unrecognizable. One voice rose above the others, a woman screaming, raw and terrified, the kind of scream that comes from genuine mortal fear. Then a child crying, sobbing, begging for help in a language I did not know. Then silence for exactly 10 seconds. Then the scraping started again, louder than before. This was not settling pipes. This was not the foundation. These were sounds of suffering, sounds of people or things in distress. The banging became more violent. It sounded like someone was trying to break through a door, hitting it over and over with incredible force. I could feel the vibrations through the floor. Dust fell from the ceiling. The light fixture above me swayed slightly. I wanted to run. I wanted to get in my car and drive as fast as I could away from this house. But Rule 4 said to sit and wait. They will stop by 10:30 p.m. If they do not stop, leave immediately. I watched the clock. 10:07 p.m., 10:14 p.m., 10:21 p.m. The sounds reached a crescendo at 10:27 p.m. All the voices screaming at once, the banging becoming a constant thunder. The scraping so loud it sounded like nails on a chalkboard magnified 100 times. I pressed my hands over my ears, but I could still hear it. I could feel it in my bones. Then at exactly 10:30 p.m. it stopped. Complete silence, as if someone had flipped a switch and turned off all sound in the house. I sat there breathing hard, my hands still pressed over my ears. Slowly, I lowered them. The silence was somehow worse than the noise. It felt expectant, as if the house was waiting for me to do something. I checked the clock. 10:32 p.m. I stood on shaking legs and tried to steady my breathing. I was fine. I had followed the rules. Everything was fine, except nothing felt fine. The house felt different now, as if the sounds had changed something fundamental about it. The air felt thicker. The shadows seemed darker, more solid, as if they had weight and substance. At 11 p.m., I forced myself to stand and check the doors and windows. The front door was locked. I tested the handle twice to be sure. The back door in the kitchen was also locked. The windows in the dining room were secure, their old latches firm and tight. In the library, I found a window that was locked but felt wrong somehow. The glass was cold, far colder than it should have been. When I touched it, I felt a vibration, like something was pressing against the other side. I pulled my hand away quickly. The windows in the living room were secure. Then I checked the kitchen windows above the sink. One of them was open. Not just unlocked, open, a gap of about 3 inches, cold air flowing in from outside. The window had been closed when I checked the kitchen earlier. I was certain of it, I had not opened it. I was sure of that. But there it was, undeniably open, letting in air that smelled of earth and decay. I closed it quickly, my fingers fumbling with the old latch. When it was secure, I said the words out loud, feeling foolish but desperate. This house is sealed. The air in the kitchen seemed to shift immediately. The feeling of something watching me faded slightly, though it did not disappear entirely. The temperature rose a few degrees. I heard a soft sound, almost like a sigh, coming from somewhere in the house. I returned to the living room and collapsed into the armchair, my heart racing. This was only hour 3. I had 5 more hours to go. I tried to calm myself by reading, but the words on the page blurred together. I kept glancing at the doorways, expecting to see someone standing there. But there was nothing, just shadows and silence. At 11:43 p.m., I heard footsteps above me. Slow, deliberate footsteps, heel-toe, pacing back and forth across the ceiling. They walked from one end of the house to the other, then back again. The footsteps were heavy, like boots on hardwood. Definitely not the steps of an 8-year-old child. Rule 7. Between midnight and 2 a.m., you may hear footsteps on the 3rd floor. Ignore them, but it was not midnight yet. It was 11:43 p.m. The rule said the footsteps would start between midnight and 2 a.m., not before. This was outside the boundaries of what I had been told to expect. I pulled out the list of rules and read Rule 7 again. Between midnight and 2 a.m. These footsteps had started at 11:43 p.m. That was a deviation, but the rule said to ignore them, so I tried. I focused on my book, forcing myself to read the words even though they made no sense. The footsteps continued. Always the same pattern, always the same pace, never stopping, never pausing. At midnight, 3 knocks came from Tyler's room on the 2nd floor. I climbed the stairs, moving carefully in the dim light. The footsteps above me continued, unpaused by my presence. I reached Tyler's door and knocked twice. "Thank you," Tyler said from inside. His voice was polite, almost formal. "I am glad you are here." I did not respond. I turned to go back downstairs. "James?" Tyler said. "That is your name, right?" "James?" I froze. I had not told him my name. Robert might have mentioned it, but something about the way Tyler said it made my skin crawl. "James, can I ask you something?" Rule 10. Do not have conversations. Do not let him convince you. I continued down the stairs without answering. "James, do you know why you are really here?" Tyler's voice followed me, clear despite the distance and the closed door. "Do you know what they are paying you to do?" I reached the first floor and sat down in the living room, trying to block out his voice. "You are not a babysitter, James. You are a battery. You are here to feed us. Your fear, your attention, your presence, it feeds us. Thank you for that." I pressed my hands over my ears, but I could still hear him. Or maybe I was hearing him in my mind now, not through the air. "Every hour you stay, you become part of this place. Every rule you follow, you strengthen the chains. You are helping to keep me here, James. Does that make you feel good? Does that make you feel like you are doing the right thing?" The footsteps above me grew louder. Now it sounded like multiple people walking, their steps overlapping and echoing. The entire third floor seemed alive with movement. I kept my hands over my ears and counted seconds. Tyler's voice finally faded, and the house returned to its previous state of oppressive silence, broken only by the constant footsteps above. At 12:17 a.m., the footsteps changed. They were no longer just walking. They were running, back and forth like someone desperately trying to escape something. Then they stopped suddenly and I heard a sound like furniture being dragged across the floor. Heavy furniture. Then footsteps again, walking slowly, deliberately, heading toward the stairs. I tensed. Were they coming down? Was something from the third floor going to descend to where I was? The footsteps reached what I assumed was the third floor landing. Then they stopped. I held my breath, waiting. Nothing happened. The footsteps did not continue down the stairs. After a minute of silence, they resumed their pacing on the third floor. At 1:34 a.m., the footsteps finally stopped. The silence pressed down on me like a physical weight. I realized I had been holding my breath and forced myself to exhale. My entire body was tense, every muscle coiled tight. I tried to relax but could not. The house felt like it was waiting for something. At 2 a.m., I prepared the second snack. Red plate, 2 graham crackers, 1 glass of cold water from the kitchen tap. I carried it upstairs slowly, my legs feeling weak. The second floor hallway was darker than before, as if the nightlight had dimmed. Or maybe my eyes were just tired. I set the plate down outside Tyler's door and knocked twice. This time the door opened immediately. I saw a small hand reach out. Pale skin, thin fingers, unnaturally long fingernails, grab the plate and pull it inside. The movement was fast, almost violent. The door slammed shut. The lock clicked. I was halfway down the stairs when the lights went out. Complete darkness. Not just the lights, but the nightlight in the upstairs hallway, the lamp in the living room, everything. Even the clock on the wall, which had a faint glow, went dark. The house was utterly black. Rule 9, do not panic. Go to the living room. Sit in the armchair by the window. Close your eyes and count to 100. I stumbled forward in the darkness, my hands outstretched, feeling for furniture. My shin hit something hard, the coffee table, and I bit back a cry of pain. I shuffled forward, sweeping my hands through the air until I felt the familiar texture of the plastic-covered armchair. I sat down and closed my eyes, though it made no difference in the total darkness. Then I began to count 1, 2, 3. Something moved in the darkness. I heard fabric rustling, the soft sound of footsteps on carpet. Close, very close. 4, 5, 6. A smell filled the air, sweet and rotten at the same time. Like flowers left too long in a vase until the water turned brown and putrid. My stomach turned. 7, 8, 9. Breathing. Not my breathing. Someone else's breathing right next to my ear. Slow, deliberate breaths that sounded wet, as if the person's lungs were filled with fluid. 10, 11, 12. James. A whisper. So close I felt breath on my neck. Cold breath that smelled of earth and decay. "You can open your eyes, James. It's safe now. I promise." The voice was not Tyler's. It was deeper, older, masculine, but wrong somehow. As if a human voice was being imitated by something that had only heard recordings. 13, 14, 15. I kept counting, my lips moving silently now, my jaw clenched tight. The voice wanted me to open my eyes. Rule 9 said not to, no matter what I heard, felt, or smelled. I would not break the rules. I would not. You're being very rude, James. It's impolite to ignore someone when they're speaking to you. 16, 17, 18. A hand touched my shoulder. The fingers were wrong, too long, too cold, too many joints. They pressed down with surprising strength, fingernails digging through my shirt into my skin. I wanted to scream. I wanted to open my eyes and run. But I kept them closed and kept counting. 19, 20, 21. We could be friends, you and I. I could show you such wonderful things. Things that would make you understand why this house exists. Why Tyler exists. Why you were always meant to come here tonight. 22, 23, 24. The hand moved from my shoulder to my face, those impossibly long fingers tracing the outline of my jaw. The touch was gentle but wrong, like being caressed by something that had studied humans but did not truly understand tenderness. One fingernail, sharp as a razor, pressed against my cheek just below my left eye. Not cutting, just pressing, a promise of what could happen if I disobeyed. 25, 26, 27. Last chance, James, open your eyes. Look at me, acknowledge me. Rule 11 doesn't apply in the dark. No one can see you breaking the rules when there's no light. That was clever. Rule 11 said not to acknowledge anyone I saw who wasn't Tyler. But I hadn't seen this thing. I had only felt it, smelled it, heard it. Was the rule about seeing specifically or about acknowledging in general? I decided not to find out. I kept counting. 28, 29, 30. The thing withdrew its hand suddenly, as if burned. I heard it move away, its footsteps receding into the darkness. But I could still feel it watching me, waiting to see if I would falter. 31, 32, 33. More sounds now. Multiple sources. Whispers from different corners of the room, overlapping and incomprehensible. The sound of furniture being moved, though I felt nothing touch the chair where I sat. Glass breaking somewhere in the house. A child crying? Not Tyler, someone else, someone younger. A woman's voice calling a name I didn't recognize. All of it swirling around me in the darkness like a storm of sound. 47, 48, 49. The sounds grew louder, more desperate, as if whatever inhabited this house was throwing everything it had at me to make me break, to make me open my eyes early. 51, 52, 53. Something grabbed my ankle. Small hands, child-sized, wrapping around my leg with surprising strength, pulling, trying to drag me out of the chair. I dug my fingers into the armrests and kept counting, kept my eyes closed. 63, 64, 65. The pulling stopped. The hands released me. A child's voice inches from my face. Why won't you help me? I'm scared. Please help me, please. It sounded exactly like Tyler, the same voice I had heard through the bedroom door. But Rule 10 was specific. I could only respond to that particular plea through the door, and only with the prescribed phrase. This wasn't through the door. This was something else pretending to be Tyler. 71, 72, 73. The temperature dropped even further. My breath came out in clouds so thick I could feel the moisture condensing on my closed eyelids. Ice formed on my hands where they gripped the armrests. My entire body began to shiver uncontrollably. 82, 83, 84. You're making them angry, James. The things in this house, they don't like being ignored. They're used to being fed. Your fear, your attention, your sanity, it's what they need to survive. And you're withholding it. That makes you cruel. That makes you selfish. 91, 92, 93. A roar filled the house. Not a human sound. Something primal and ancient, full of rage and hunger. The floor beneath me shook. The windows rattled in their frames. Something shattered in another room. The roar went on, impossibly long, as if whatever was making the sound didn't need to breathe. 97, 98, 99, 100. The lights came back on. I opened my eyes slowly, blinking against the sudden brightness. The living room looked exactly as it had before the lights went out. Nothing was broken. Nothing was out of place. The plastic covers on the furniture were undisturbed. The clock on the wall showed 2:04 a.m., but the air smelled different now. Still that combination of flowers and rot, but fainter. as if whatever had been in the room with me had only partially left. I looked around carefully, making sure I was truly alone. The room was empty. I was safe for now. I stood on shaking legs and walked to the kitchen, needing water. My mouth was dry, my throat tight. I poured a glass from the tap and drank it in one long gulp, then poured another. As I drank, I noticed something. Blood on the kitchen floor. A small puddle of it, dark and fresh, near the basement door. The door I had been specifically instructed never to approach. The blood was spreading slowly, seeping out from under the door as if from a substantial source on the other side. I backed away from it, my heart hammering. This was not in the rules. The rules said nothing about blood. What was I supposed to do? I pulled out the list and read through it again, searching for guidance. Nothing. The rules covered specific times and specific actions, but they said nothing about blood appearing from under the basement door. As I watched, the puddle grew larger, more blood seeping out inch by inch, spreading across the old linoleum. The smell hit me. Iron and salt and something else, something that reminded me of a butcher shop, of raw meat left out too long. I could not just stand here and watch. But the rules were clear: do not investigate basement sounds. Do not go to the basement door. Did that apply to blood? Was blood considered an investigation trigger? I decided not to risk it. I backed out of the kitchen and returned to the living room, trying not to think about what could be producing that much blood. Trying not to imagine what was happening behind that locked basement door. At 2:23 a.m., I heard Tyler's voice again, clearer than before, coming from upstairs but somehow filling the entire house. "James, can you hear me?" I did not respond. "I know you can hear me. I know you're scared. You should be. This house has been here for a very long time. Longer than Brookfield. Longer than the forests around it. It existed before any of this. We just built around it, trying to contain it, trying to control it." I kept my eyes on the doorway, watching for movement. My parents aren't really my parents, James. They're caretakers, just like you're a caretaker tonight. And the thing they're taking care of, the thing we're all taking care of, is me. Or what's inside me. Or what I've become. I'm not entirely sure anymore which is which. His voice grew softer, sadder. For the first time, he sounded like an actual child instead of something pretending to be one. "I've been 8 years old for 53 years, James. Do you understand what that means? To be trapped at this age, in this body, in this room for 53 years? To feel myself slowly becoming less human and more like the thing that lives in the walls? The thing that lives in the basement? The thing that walks the third floor?" I wanted to cover my ears, but something made me listen. The rules aren't to protect you from me, James. They're to protect me from becoming what I'm slowly turning into. Every babysitter who follows them perfectly gives me one more night of being mostly human. One more night of remembering what it was like before I changed. Before I died and came back wrong. Silence. Then. But every babysitter who breaks the rules, who opens the door or acknowledges the shadows or runs away early, they feed the thing I'm becoming. They make me stronger and less human, less Tyler and more it. I stood frozen in the living room, processing this. The parents' desperation made sense now. The specific rules. The high pay. They weren't just protecting me. They were protecting their son, or what was left of him, from complete transformation. "You're doing well, James. Better than most. Only 2 more hours. If you can make it, I get to stay myself for another night. And you get to leave with your mind intact and your soul still your own. That's the deal. That's always been the deal." At 2:47 a.m., I heard the front door handle rattle. Someone was trying to get in, or something. I approached the foyer slowly, my body tensed and ready to run. Through the small window beside the door, I could see nothing, just darkness and the vague shapes of trees. But the handle continued to rattle, turning back and forth with increasing violence. Then knocking. Not the deliberate 3 knocks of Tyler. This was frantic, desperate pounding. A woman's voice muffled by the door. "Please, please let me in. Oh God, please help me. It's following me. It's going to catch me, please." I recognized the voice. Dorothy, the woman from the gas station. "James! James, I know you're in there. Please open the door. I was wrong to send you here. I need to get you out. Please, it's coming." Her voice cut off with a scream. A wet, gurgling sound, then silence. I stared at the door, my hand halfway to the lock. Every instinct screamed at me to open it, to help, to see what had happened. But Rule 11 whispered in my mind, "Do not acknowledge them. Pretend they are not there. This could not be Dorothy. Dorothy was safe in town, miles away from this house. This was something else. Something that knew what buttons to push. Something that had learned my name from Tyler's voice, that knew about Dorothy's warning, that was using these things against me. I backed away from the door. The knocking started again, even more frantic. Dorothy's voice returned, sobbing now. "James, please. My children."
Think of my children.
"If I die out here, who will take care of them?" "James, James!" I returned to the living room and sat in the armchair, my hands over my ears. But I could still hear her screaming, could still hear the wet tearing sounds, could still hear her begging for help that I refused to give. The sounds lasted for 7 minutes. I counted every second. When they finally stopped, the silence was worse than the screaming had been. At 3:15 a.m., something changed in the house. The oppressive atmosphere lifted slightly. The shadows seemed less dense. The air warmed a few degrees. I felt like I could breathe properly for the first time in hours. I checked the kitchen. The blood was gone. The floor was clean as if it had never been there. The basement door was closed and locked, showing no signs of the seepage I had witnessed. At 3:30 a.m., exactly as predicted, the house became very quiet. The change was immediate and profound. All the small sounds, the creaking boards, the settling foundation, the whisper of air through old vents, simply stopped. It was like someone had pressed a mute button on reality. Tyler had gone to sleep, or whatever passed for sleep in his case. I sat in the living room, afraid to move, afraid to make noise that might disturb this fragile peace. My body ached from tension. My eyes burned from strain. My mind felt foggy, struggling to process everything I had experienced. I pulled out my phone. 3:37 a.m. Still no signal, but I didn't need one now. I just needed to wait. 23 more minutes. I could do this. I had made it this far. The minutes crawled by with agonizing slowness. I watched the clock on the wall, counting each second. 3:40 a.m. 3:45 a.m. 3:52 a.m. At 3:58 a.m. I heard a car engine in the distance growing closer, gravel crunching under tires. The engine shut off, car doors opening and closing, footsteps on the porch. At exactly 4 a.m., a key turned in the front door lock. Robert and Sarah entered, looking exhausted and somehow older than they had just 8 hours ago. Sarah's eyes went immediately to mine, searching my face with desperate intensity. "You stayed," she whispered. "You actually stayed the entire time." Robert moved past her, pulling an envelope from his jacket pocket. "You followed all the rules?" "Yes, all of them. Exactly as written." "You're certain? You didn't open his door? Didn't acknowledge anything you saw? Didn't leave early?" "I'm certain." He handed me the envelope. I could feel the thickness of the bills inside. $300 in cash, as promised. Sarah grabbed my hand, squeezing it tightly. Tears ran down her face. "Thank you. You have no idea what you've done for us tonight. For him, every night that someone makes it through, he gets to stay himself a little longer. You've given us one more day with our son. What happened to him?" I asked, the question bursting out before I could stop it. "What is he?" Robert and Sarah exchanged glances. Finally, Robert spoke. "There was an accident. 12 years ago. Tyler drowned in the lake behind this house. We found him too late. He was gone. Truly gone. But Sarah couldn't accept it. She found a book in the old church basement. A book that promised a way to bring him back." Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. It worked. He came back. But he brought something back with him. Something that had been waiting in the dark water for a very long time. Something ancient and hungry. "The rules keep it contained," Robert continued. "Keep it from fully manifesting. Keep Tyler from being completely consumed by it. But it requires constant attention. Constant feeding. Small amounts from many people rather than everything from one person. Babysitters like you experiencing fear and confusion and staying anyway. It satisfies the thing without destroying anyone completely." "How long can you keep this up?" I asked. "As long as we can find people willing to stay. As long as the rules work." Robert's face was hollow with exhaustion. "We know it's not sustainable forever. Eventually he'll either become fully human again or fully transform into what's waiting inside him. But until then, every night buys us time. Time to research. Time to find a permanent solution. Time to be his parents for one more day." I looked at the envelope in my hand. $300. Payment for serving as a human battery for an eldritch thing trapped inside a dead child's body. I should have been horrified, should have run from the house and never looked back. But standing there, seeing the desperate hope in Sarah's eyes and the grim determination in Robert's face, I understood. They were parents. They were doing what parents do, fighting impossible odds to protect their child no matter what he had become. "Will you come back?" Sarah asked. "Tomorrow night? We'll pay the same, and we need someone who knows the rules now, someone who proved they can follow them." I thought about my empty apartment, my dwindling bank account, my student loans and unpaid bills. I thought about the sounds from the basement and the thing that had touched me in the dark. I thought about Tyler's voice saying he had been 8 years old for 53 years. "I need to think about it," I said. Robert nodded. "That's fair. You have our number. Call if you decide to come back. But James, if you do decide to return, you need to know something. It gets harder each time. The house learns you. The thing inside Tyler learns you. It will use everything you fear, everything you love, everything you've ever lost against you. Tonight was an audition. Tomorrow would be a test. And every night after that it escalates. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know what you're agreeing to. Because informed consent matters even in situations like this. And because if you're going to help us, you need to understand what you're fighting." I nodded slowly and walked to the door. As I reached for the handle, Sarah called out, "James?" I turned. "Whatever you decide, thank you for tonight. You gave Tyler one more day of being human. That's more than most people give us." I left the house as the sun was beginning to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. The forest around the house looked different in the dawn light, less menacing, more tired, as if it too had survived a long night. My car started on the first try, and as I drove down the dirt road toward civilization, my phone signal returned. 17 missed calls, 12 voicemails, all from numbers I didn't recognize. I didn't listen to them. I just drove back to town, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. $300 richer and irrevocably changed. When I stopped at the gas station to fill up, Dorothy was there, alive, unharmed. She looked at me with knowing eyes as I walked in to pay. "You made it through." "You were at the house," I said. "I heard you." "At the door." "No, I wasn't. I was here all night. Whatever you heard, it wasn't me, but I'm glad you didn't open the door." She rang up my gas, then leaned across the counter. "Are you going back?" "I don't know. The money's good. And they're good people, Robert and Sarah. What happened to them, to Tyler, it wasn't their fault. The lake has been wrong for 100 years. Longer. Before Brookfield was even founded, the indigenous people who lived here wouldn't go near it. They said something slept in the deep water, something that shouldn't be disturbed. But it was disturbed. The town built a marina there in the 1950s, started using it for recreation. Tyler was the 5th child to drown in that lake over the years, but he was the only one whose parents knew the old magic, the only one who came back. She handed me my change. "Every other babysitter quit or broke. You made it through following every rule. That makes you special. That makes you valuable to them. That makes me a target for whatever's in that house, true, but it also makes you a protector. Maybe the first one in years who can actually help that family instead of just surviving the night and running away." She smiled sadly. "Your choice, James, but make it carefully. Once you go back a second time, the house will claim a part of you. You'll be tied to it, connected to Tyler and the thing inside him. There's no coming back from that unchanged." I left the gas station with more questions than answers. As I drove to my apartment, I passed the diner where I had first seen the job posting. The bulletin board was visible through the window. The yellow paper was gone. A new posting had taken its place. Different handwriting. Same message, babysitter needed, good pay, night shifts. They were already looking for someone else. A backup in case I didn't return, or a replacement for after I inevitably broke like all the others. I went home, showered, and tried to sleep. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw Tyler's locked door, heard his voice saying he had been 8 years old for 53 years, felt the 2 long fingers touching my face in the darkness. At 2 p.m., my phone rang. Robert's number. I stared at it for 3 rings before answering. "Hello? James, I wanted to check on you. Make sure you got home safely." "I'm fine." "Good. Good." I also wanted to say, there's no pressure. If you decide this isn't for you, we understand. What we're asking is extraordinary. Unreasonable even. No one would blame you for walking away. But you need someone. A long pause. "Yes, we do. We always do. What happens if you can't find anyone? If no one stays the full night? Another pause, longer this time. Tyler stays locked in his room. The thing inside him grows stronger. Eventually, the door won't hold. The rules won't work. And what comes out won't be our son anymore. How long until that happens? We don't know. Every failed night accelerates it. Every successful night delays it. We're living on borrowed time, buying days and weeks with money we're running out of and hope that's wearing thin. I looked at the envelope of cash on my counter. $300. Almost a week's rent. Almost a month of groceries. Almost enough to make me forget what I had experienced and go back for more. Almost. I'll think about it, I said. I need time. Of course. You have our number. We'll be waiting to hear from you. He hung up. I sat in my apartment staring at the walls, trying to decide what kind of person I wanted to be. The kind who walked away from horror and let a family suffer alone, or the kind who walked back into it, knowing full well what waited in the darkness. That night I dreamed of the house. In the dream, I stood in Tyler's room with the door wide open. He sat on his bed, a normal-looking 8-year-old boy with sandy hair and blue eyes. But his shadow on the wall didn't match his body. His shadow had too many limbs, too many angles, a shape that hurt to look at directly. "Will you come back, James?" he asked. Not the knowing ancient voice from the night before. Just a child's voice, hopeful and scared. I don't know. I hope you do. You're the first babysitter in 3 years who made it through without breaking. The first one who might actually be able to help instead of just delaying the inevitable. Help how? That's what we need to figure out together if you're brave enough to come back. I woke up at 3:30 a.m., the exact time. Tyler went to sleep with my decision made. I grabbed my phone and texted Robert's number. "I'll be there tonight. 8 p.m., same rules?" The response came immediately, as if he had been waiting by his phone. "Same rules." "Thank you, James. You have no idea what this means to us, but I did know. I had seen it in Sarah's eyes and heard it in Robert's voice. And I had heard it in Tyler's words from inside that locked room. I was going back. Not for the money, though I needed it desperately. Not for adventure or curiosity. I was going back because a child, or what remained of one, had been trapped for 53 years. And his parents were fighting a battle they couldn't win alone. I was going back because someone had to. And maybe, just maybe, I was going back because that house had already claimed something from me during that first night. A piece of my certainty about how the world worked. A piece of my assumption that I understood reality. The house had marked me, and now I needed to see how deep that mark went. At 7:30 p.m., I got in my car and started driving toward Blackwood Trail. As I turned onto the dirt road, my radio died and my phone lost signal. Right on schedule, the house appeared in my headlights. Gray and sagging and wrong, but this time, I wasn't arriving as a desperate graduate school dropout who needed rent money. I was arriving as something else. Something I didn't have a name for yet. A protector, a witness, a battery for ancient things and dying children. I parked in the gravel driveway and checked my phone. 7:56 p.m. 4 minutes early. I pulled out Dorothy's silver cross from my pocket. I had kept it after that first night, and held it for a moment. Then I put it around my neck, tucked it under my shirt where it couldn't be seen, and got out of the car. Robert was already waiting at the red door. He looked surprised to see me, as if some part of him hadn't believed I would actually return. "You came back." I did. "Where's the rules list?" He handed it to me. The same paper, the same handwriting. But this time there was a note at the bottom in different ink, freshly added. Rule 13. Thank you for coming back. You are braver than you know. T.I. looked at Robert. Tyler added this? This afternoon, during his waking hours. He's been more lucid today than he has been in months. Your presence last night, your successful completion of the rules, it helped him more than we hoped. Sarah appeared behind him, and for the first time, I saw her smile. It was small and fragile, but genuine. Ready for night 2? Ready as I'll ever be. It will be harder tonight. You know that, right? I know. Robert stepped aside to let me in. As I crossed the threshold, I felt it, that same sensation of being watched by the house itself. But this time there was something else, recognition. The house knew me now, remembered me. And somewhere upstairs in a locked room on the second floor, an 8-year-old boy who had been 8 for 53 years was waiting. I had made my choice. I had come back, and whatever happened next, I would face it the same way I had faced the first night. by following the rules, by refusing to break, by being the battery that kept a dying child human for one more night. The door closed behind me with a soft click. Robert and Sarah left for their nightly vigil elsewhere, wherever they went to escape the house's influence for 8 hours. And I was alone again with the rules, the shadows, and the thing that lived in the walls. I checked my watch. Go 2 p.m., 7 hours and 58 minutes until dawn. I sat down in the plastic-covered armchair, pulled out the rules, and began reading them again. Memorizing them, preparing myself for what was coming, because this time I knew the truth. I wasn't just babysitting a strange child in Brookfield. I was holding back the dark, one night at a time, one rule at a time, and I would keep doing it for as long as I could. For as long as they needed me. For as long as Tyler remained even partly human. That was my choice. My burden. My purpose in this forgotten town where the forest pressed close and something old slept in the lake water. The clock struck 8:30 p.m. I was committed now. No leaving until 4 a.m. I settled into the chair and waited for the first knock from upstairs, wondering what tonight would bring. Wondering how much worse it could get, but I was ready. As ready as anyone could be for the impossible task of keeping hope alive in a house built on despair. The rules were clear. I would follow them, and maybe somehow that would be enough. 6 months later, I'm still going back to the house on Blackwood Trail. 3 nights a week now, sometimes 4. The pay has increased to $400 per night as I've proven myself reliable, capable, and, most importantly, unbroken. The rules have evolved. New ones get added based on my experiences. Rule 14. If you hear your own voice calling from another room, respond with, "I am here," and do not investigate. Rule 15. If the temperature drops below freezing, light the candles in the living room in the specific order marked on their bases. Rule 16. Never count the portraits in the hallway. The number changes, and knowing why is dangerous. Tyler speaks to me more now. Real conversations during the permitted times. He tells me about his life before the drowning, about his parents when they were younger and less worn down by their eternal vigil. He tells me about the thing inside him, not what it is exactly, but what it wants. It wants to be remembered. It wants to exist fully in the world again, and it's willing to use a child's body as a doorway. We're looking for solutions. Robert found another book in a library 3 states away. Sarah has been corresponding with a professor who studies folklore and elder things, and I've been documenting everything. Every rule, every sound, every shadow, creating a record that might help the next person if I fail. Because I will fail eventually. Everyone does. The house takes its toll. I've started seeing things in my apartment, shadows that move wrong, sounds that echo from nowhere. Dorothy was right. The house has claimed part of me. I'm tied to it now, connected to Tyler and the thing wearing his face, but not yet. Not tonight. Tonight, I'll drive out to Blackwood Trail at 8 p.m. I'll follow the rules exactly. I'll knock back twice when Tyler knocks 3 times. I'll ignore the sounds from the basement and the footsteps on the 3rd floor. I'll close my eyes and count to 100 if the lights go out, and I'll give one dying child one more night of being human. That's all any of us can do, really. Hold back the dark for one more day. Follow the rules that keep chaos at bay. Buy time for hope to find a foothold. The money helps. My rent is paid, my car is fixed, my debts are slowly shrinking, but that's not why I go back. I go back because someone has to. Because a family is fighting an impossible battle, and they need witnesses. They need believers. They need someone who will sit in that plastic-covered armchair and refuse to break, no matter what whispers in the darkness. I go back because I looked into the void, and the void looked back, and somehow we reached an understanding. I'll keep feeding it small pieces of fear and wonder, and it will keep letting Tyler remember what it's like to be human. It's not a victory, but it's not a defeat either. It's survival, theirs and mine, and in a town like Brookfield, where something sleeps in the lake water, and the forests press close with ancient hunger. Survival is the closest thing to hope you're going to find. So I'll go back tonight, and tomorrow night, and the night after that until I can't anymore. Until the rules stop working or I stop being strong enough to follow them. But not yet. Not tonight. Tonight, I'm still the babysitter for a strange child in Brookfield, and I still have rules to follow.